They trained me to hurt other dogs, but I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted them to stop hurting me. For 3 years, humans taught me that survival meant fighting, that showing mercy meant punishment, that gentleness was weakness to be beaten out of me. They looked at my scars and saw a weapon. They looked at my fear and called it aggression. They never looked into my eyes to see what I really was. Just a dog who wanted to be loved. But violence is not in our nature. It's something humans create. Something they force upon us until we forget who we really are. The miracle isn't that some of us become what they make us. The miracle is that some of us remember how to be gentle again. I am Titan, though that wasn't always my name. For the first 2 years of my life, I was just Red, named for the rust-colored patches on my white coat. I lived in Marcus Webb's backyard in Detroit, in a chain-link pen that measured 8 feet by 10 feet. Marcus ran what he called a training facility, though no real training happened there. Just 12 dogs in separate pens, each of us learning that other dogs meant pain, that humans meant unpredictable violence, that every day was about surviving until the next. I was born there, one of 6 puppies. Marcus sold my siblings when we were 8 weeks old, but kept me because I was the biggest. This one's got champion bloodlines, he'd tell visitors, as if bloodlines determined destiny. The training started when I was 4 months old. First, they taught me to pull heavy tires to build muscle. Then came the treadmill sessions. Hours of forced running while Marcus placed bets on how long I could last. When I stumbled from exhaustion, they'd hit me with a stick and make me run longer. But the worst training was sparring. They'd put me in a pit with another young dog, both of us scared and confused, and prod us with electric shocks until we fought each other. "Don't you dare back down," Marcus would yell. "Winners eat, losers don't." I learned to fight not because I wanted to, but because hunger hurts worse than bites. I learned to look aggressive not because I felt it, but because showing fear meant more beatings. I learned to win not because I enjoyed it, but because losing meant days without food. By the time I was 2, I had fought in 17 matches, small underground events in basements and warehouses, where men screamed and placed bets while dogs bled for their entertainment. I won 14 of those fights, not because I was vicious, but because I was terrified. Between fights, I lived in isolation. No companionship, no affection, no relief from the constant tension. The only touches I received were rough hands checking for injuries, preparing me for the next event. I forgot what it felt like to be petted gently. I forgot that humans could speak in soft voices. Marcus kept us separate because he said friendship made us soft. What he didn't understand was that isolation was making us desperate, and desperate animals do desperate things. I developed what the veterinarian later called learned helplessness. The belief that pain was inevitable, that kindness was impossible, that my only value lay in my ability to inflict damage. When Marcus would chain me up after a fight, I wouldn't even try to escape. I'd just lie there, waiting for the next beating, the next fight. But even in that darkness, something inside me remembered light. Sometimes, in quiet hours before dawn, I would dream of running freely, of playing with other dogs, of a human voice calling my name with love instead of command. I'd wake up confused, not understanding why these dreams felt more real than my waking life. Marcus called it my fighting spirit, but he was wrong. It wasn't a spirit for fighting. It was a spirit that refused to die. Then one day in February, everything changed with the sound of sirens and shouting. It started before dawn with a thunderous crash, the front door splintering under the force of a battering ram. Police! Search warrant! Nobody move! Through my pen, I could see flashlights cutting through the darkness, uniformed figures surrounding the house. Marcus stumbling out in his underwear, hands raised, cursing at the officers who were reading him his rights. Animal control. We need multiple transport vehicles, someone radioed. We've got 12 dogs back here, various states of injury and neglect. Dr. Sarah Martinez was the first person to approach my pen that morning, and the first human to look at me with something other than calculation or threat. She moved slowly, speaking in a voice I had never heard before, gentle, patient, unafraid. "Hey there, big guy," she said, crouching outside the chain link. "You've been through hell, haven't you?" I pressed myself against the back of the pen, unsure whether this was another test. In my experience, humans who spoke softly were often the ones who hurt you most. But Dr. Martinez didn't reach for me, didn't demand anything. She just sat there, talking quietly about the weather, about how I didn't have to be afraid anymore. After 20 minutes, she slowly offered her hand through the fence. I wanted to approach, but 3 years of conditioning held me back. Approaching humans meant pain. Trusting meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant punishment. "That's okay," she said when I didn't move. "You don't have to trust me yet, but nobody's going to hurt you anymore. That life is over." The animal control facility was overwhelming after years of sensory deprivation. Barking dogs, caring staff, clean smells, natural light. Everything was foreign, potentially threatening. I spent the first week pressed against the back wall of my kennel, refusing to eat. Dr. Martinez visited every day during that first week, never trying to force interaction, just sitting nearby and talking. "Marcus is facing multiple felony charges," she explained. "You're evidence now, which means you're protected." Protected. It was a word I didn't understand. Slowly, other staff members began working with me. Jessica, the behavior specialist, started with basic trust exercises, sitting near my kennel at meal times, tossing treats without making eye contact, establishing routines I could predict. "He's not aggressive," she told Dr. Martinez after 2 weeks. "He's hypervigilant. Every behavior is defensive, not offensive. He's always trying to make himself smaller, never trying to appear threatening." But the real breakthrough came when they introduced me to other dogs in a controlled, positive environment. His name was Chester, an elderly golden retriever who served as the facility's ambassador dog. A calm, gentle animal who helped traumatized dogs remember how to socialize. When they first brought Chester near my kennel, I braced for a fight. Instead, Chester lay down just outside my kennel and yawned, a calming signal I hadn't seen in years. He didn't stare, didn't challenge, didn't show any stress signals. He just existed peacefully in my vicinity. After an hour, I found myself moving closer to the kennel door, drawn by something I couldn't name. Chester's tail wagged slowly, not aggressive flag waving, but the gentle rhythm of contentment. That night, for the first time since puppyhood, I dreamed of playing. That's when I began to remember who I was before they made me into what they wanted. The process was slow, sometimes painful. 3 years of trauma don't disappear overnight. I had nightmares where I was back in the fighting pit. I flinched when humans moved too quickly. I couldn't eat if anyone was watching. But Jessica was patient, and Dr. Martinez was consistent, and Chester became my first friend. Through daily interactions with Chester, I relearned the language of play. The play bow, the gentle mouth wrestling, the joy of running together just for movement. "Look at that," Jessica said one afternoon, watching Chester and me chase each other around the exercise yard. 6 weeks ago, he thought other dogs only meant pain. Now look at him. I was learning that touch could be comfort instead of control. That humans could kneel beside me without grabbing. That other dogs could approach without attacking. That I could be strong without being violent. The breakthrough moment came during a thunderstorm in April. I had always been terrified of loud noises. They reminded me of crowds screaming during fights, of Marcus yelling commands, of chaos that preceded pain. When the first thunder rolled across the sky, I retreated to the back of my kennel and began trembling. Jessica found me there, shaking and panting, reliving memories I couldn't escape. Instead of trying to coax me out, she simply sat on the floor outside my kennel and began talking, not to me, but to herself. "You know what I'm thinking about, Titan?" she said softly. "I'm thinking about how brave you are. Most dogs who went through what you went through would be broken beyond repair. But look at you. You're learning to trust again. You're learning to play." Her voice was steady, hypnotic, cutting through the thunder and the chaos in my mind. "Marcus thought he was making you into a weapon," she continued. "But he was wrong. You can't make someone into something they're not at their core. And at your core, you're gentle, you're loving, you're everything he tried to beat out of you, but couldn't." As she spoke, I found myself moving closer to the front of the kennel, drawn by the certainty in her voice, by the way she saw me not as what I had been forced to become, but as who I really was. "The other dogs here can sense it," Jessica said. "Chester knew within minutes that you weren't dangerous. The puppies try to play with you through the fence. The scared dogs calm down when you're nearby. You know why? Because they recognize kindness." That night, when the storm passed and the facility grew quiet, I made a decision that changed everything. I approached the front of my kennel, and, for the first time since puppyhood, I wagged my tail at a human. Jessica cried when she saw it. "There you are," she whispered. "I knew you were in there somewhere." 6 months later, Dr. Martinez approached me with news that would define the rest of my life. "Titan," she said. They had given me that name not because I was fierce, but because I had survived something that should have destroyed me. "How would you like to have a real job? How would you like to help other animals who are scared and hurting?" The rehabilitation program was unlike anything I could have imagined. Instead of training me to fight, they trained me to comfort. Instead of teaching me to be aggressive, they taught me to be calm. Instead of using my strength to hurt others, they showed me how to use my presence to heal. I learned to lie quietly beside animals recovering from surgery. I learned to sense when other dogs were having panic attacks and position myself nearby as a calming influence. I learned that my size, which had once been seen as threatening, could be reassuring to animals who needed protection. Most importantly, I learned that my past didn't define my future. That redemption was possible, even for dogs like me. Humans forget that we are not the worst things that have happened to us. They see scars and assume aggression. They see breeds and make assumptions. They see behaviors shaped by trauma and think they're seeing true nature. But nature isn't what we're forced to become. It's what we return to when we feel safe enough to remember. Today, I work at the same animal control facility where I was rehabilitated, now as a certified therapy dog. My job is to help other animals who arrive scared, traumatized, unable to trust. Dogs who have been used for fighting, cats who have been abused, any animal who has forgotten that humans can be kind. They respond to me differently than they respond to human staff. They sense that I understand their fear because I've lived it. They see that I survived trauma and learned to trust again, which gives them hope that they can too. Marcus was sentenced to 5 years in prison for animal cruelty. I never saw him again after that February morning, And I'm grateful for that. Not because I hate him. I've learned that hate only hurts the one carrying it. But because I've moved beyond the need for him to define who I am. Dr. Martinez retired last year, but she still visits sometimes. You know what I'm most proud of? She told me during her last official day. It's not that we saved you from fighting. It's that we helped you remember you were never a fighter to begin with. Every animal I help now is proof that cycles of violence can be broken, that trauma can be healed, that we can choose to respond to cruelty with kindness, to pain with patience, to fear with love. People often ask Jessica if they should be afraid of me because of my breed, because of my past. Her answer is always the same. Judge him by who he chooses to be today, not by what others forced him to be yesterday. This is what I want humans to remember. Your assumptions about us shape how you treat us, and how you treat us shapes who we become. If you see monsters, you may create them. If you see the potential for gentleness, you nurture it. Every day, I choose gentleness over aggression, trust over suspicion, hope over despair. Not because it's easy. Some days, the old fears still surface. But because every animal I help shows me that redemption isn't just possible, it's powerful. We are not defined by our darkest moments. We are defined by how we choose to walk toward the light. Thank you so much for joining us on Titan's incredible journey of redemption and healing. If this story touched your heart and made you believe in the power of compassion, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring animal rescue stories. Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that redemption is always possible. See you in the next video.